pronounce Isa's name like that. Your host like that, because it sounds so like fucking formal. Okay, wait, hello? Be like, welcome to the What We Don't Know podcast with your hosts, Ollie Evely and Lisa Sabah.
Episode 3.
Oh.
What We Don't Know podcast.
What we don't know. But like, if there's an intro though, do we have to say What We Don't Know podcast again?
We don't even need to say episode 3.
We don't need to say it's probably not even episode 3. It's like 2.
We might mix them up as well.
Yeah. So this is episode 3.8 version 5.
Start again. Where do you rate yourself as an artist?
What? What is that? Like, how did we... I'm actually shook.
Shook one.
Shook one. I'm shook one. No, but seriously, rate myself as an artist.
Out of 10.
Out of 10? Really? If I saw my stuff and as objective as I can be, which is not really that objective, 5, 6 out of 10. 10 being like, oh my god, that's art. 5, 6.
What did you... So this... I don't know a lot about him, which is convenient, but this Banksy character...
Ugh, I don't care.
You don't care?
I don't care at all.
Is it faddy?
Is it a fad? Is it a fad?
Is age relevant with art? So back when Da Vinci or Picasso, that the era of what they were painting, is it relevant? Does it value what they did more, that it was in the time that they did it? People can do what they did now easily, in a way.
Well, they can make things that look like their work, but they can't. But I doubt it would be hard for them to generate something as original as what they did during that time. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thanks.
Interesting, but then
it's like someone said bullshit.
Yeah.
No, but
that was the third one.
No, because like basically it sounds like you were saying or asking me whether what they did was special for their time.
Yeah.
And 100%.
I mean,
100% yes.
What is the value of art? Special, how special it is.
For what? For society as a whole, or individuals, or?
Do you think individuals value art differently?
Oh,
should value art differently?
And if I answer something that's like whether something should or shouldn't be done, well, I'll just answer it. I'll just go hypothetical. I think people should value art the same way. I feel like anything in life, there's levels of appreciation, and that at a certain point, it goes from just appreciating the art and realizing it's actually important to your life. And it depends on what art piece is, obviously. But for some people, for example, like cheese is life, right? And they go crazy on different kinds of cheese and the process it was made, or all of that stuff. And at a certain point for them, the appreciation of cheese is art.
And
if
what
that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. People dedicate themselves their whole lives to wine, and wine for them is art.
And that's what I actually was thinking about when you were asking these questions out of nowhere, mind you, was that both Picasso and Da Vinci brought in different disciplines into the works that they made, as varied as they are. So, like Da Vinci, for example, brought his scientific background, his curious background, and just put it all together into his paintings. So it feels like...
And you think everyone values those things in them?
No, that's what I'm saying. No, I don't think everyone.
Like,
I feel like...
art, what do you call it? A connoisseur or whatever of art. You think that they see those things, or everyone...
I would assume if you're going to be... well, self-professed art connoisseurs is one thing, but if you're actually known as an art connoisseur, I think it would come with the baggage of appreciating art at another level. Connoisseur, right?
A lot of people would appreciate those kind of art for the sake of appreciating them, right?
What do you mean? Just like to say, to
like
give
you have to like this. A Picasso painting is a weird thing in itself. Like it's like a distorted look of what people look like, and people can interpret those in different ways. Like whether, I mean, you're getting into it, but whether he is perceived, I don't know what the thought is behind having distorted people look like that, like that style of painting.
Cubist stuff.
But everybody in the art world I suppose, would value those as really good paintings. Like, they're good paintings, you would call them, right? They're like high level art.
High art, or yeah. But I think that becomes that's also due to its historical value at a certain point. You know.
Yeah, but I mean, how much is that? The value of it, like, they're obviously outrageously expensive, and they're valued at the worth of how much people like say they are worth. People put the value of the art as much as the value, like, monetarily.
Well, for me, for example, like when I think of Picasso, my appreciation goes into some of his earlier work, which wasn't as transfigured or as abstracted as his Cubist stuff, where it was actually figurative. Like it was just, there was this painting of a nude boy with a horse, and I think it's great. You know, it's just, it's not naturalistic. It's not like as if it was a lifelike painting or anything. But there was just something for me as an art, like as someone who does paint or appreciates art or whatever, that was more compelling to me than the other stuff, than the well-known
found
stuff.
It now. It's strange. It's much different as well.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I mean, 1906 is a different...
And I think he got like super big, in the 1920s or so? Well, but yeah, 10s to 20s, and then boomed from then on.
The thing is as well, you have to think about, I mean, in terms of like 1920s, I mean, 1906 this was, he must have been, I mean, we assume like 16 or older, obviously, right? Before painting this.
I'm not sure how old he was when he painted it.
Boy leading a horse, the painting.
Yeah, that's what it is, yeah.
But it's not even a different era. Like you said, different era is 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s is a different era than we are in now.
Yeah.
1906 is
and I think
different.
that's where where the value really lies for some pieces. Like, and that's why some modern pieces, or some contemporary pieces, it would be actually interesting to explain the perceived difference between modern and contemporary in art lingo. That's fun.
History and art are very, very closely tied. And
Yes.
I think timeline of art is really, really important, because you find old artifacts considered art, like for
Art
the most
objects,
part.
yeah.
And things that were just there in 1800s
Yeah.
are art pieces in a way.
Yeah, so antiques is one thing, but then there's also artifacts and things that were used in ritual practices, for example. So those I think have really a bigger value than just, let's say, the toilet pot in the 1500s.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to look at, but
okay, so
is it an art object?
So there's something that's
I don't know.
obviously a little bit different as well, which is what people represent or what people try to portray, like really try to portray on a board, or, you know, that they're putting down on paper, that people store in stock. That's different than stuff that people use, for sure. That's people putting, and now people tie in, like, people value art, I suppose, as putting a lot of your emotions or a lot of your whatever you're trying to convey out onto a piece of paper,
you know,
or whatever.
If I'm not mistaken, in the art world, that's actually considered archaic.
Oh, really?
That's considered outdated. That kind of it's an outdated model of art making where the expression,
you have to be tied to it.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't agree with it personally.
So,
I think art, it's fine to create something that has a bit of you in it, and I think that's still what people do regardless of what they say.
Without that, it's the skill that goes into it then that you would value, like how good, because now it's a different era again of people can
make anything.
People can paint or draw stuff that you would mistake for a photograph. Is that not the skill of that? Is
see, but that's the thing, that
skill wise,
an artisan doesn't necessarily have to be an artist. And I think to create something that is skillful as a craftsman doesn't mean that they're an artist, if that makes sense, for me personally. Because when photography became a thing that anyone could do, what's the point of someone having the skill of creating something lifelike or naturalistic? What's the point?
So
like, really?
So back to the Banksy thing then.
Really,
roll your eyes.
I don't know.
Okay, so this is my question, because you're obviously not pro Banksy. You're not UK. You don't have a value of him that you do with who you would say your favorite artists are, for example. Is there never going to be an artist that you would? Are we in a different time now? Is there no more Picassos, no more Da Vincis, no more elite, prestigious, top of the top?
No, I'm sure there are
artists.
There are, but I'm quite I'm already myself. I'm outdated and out of touch with what's going on in the art world.
But at
It's only
that
been, what,
level,
4 years?
at like a Picasso of like a,
Yeah,
they're not even like a human like
There's a
appearance of them. They're like godly figures.
Yes, like Gerhard Richter for me is like you said, the godly figure in the art world, and he started off, or he's done both lifelike or naturalistic paintings, and he's also done the extreme and abstracted, just oil, what do you call it, squeegee paintings, and they're like looks like completely different things, but and the fact that you're seeing this artist who can do both, and and there's some life in the paintings, like
but
you can get lost in.
So it's like interesting that you said that, because it should be that like that, right? Like people should have a different value for themselves of what they're looking at. It should be that way.
Yeah,
what's the value? You can't say this is a grade A, this is this. Like people should think this artist is the one.
That's what postmodernism is, right? It's the responsibility of meaning lies with the viewer, with the subject, and not the object. That's what postmodern. It's like, who cares what the artist intended? What I got is what's important.
Because there's so much of doing things for the sake of doing things because you think that it's out there enough to have value. That's like a lot of it's performance art for me, which is like, it's for the sake of it. It's for the sake of, this is a lot of the time like trying to be outrageous.
It looks and feels like that, but like we were talking, it's actually good that you brought it up, because we're talking about connoisseurship, right? Or connoisseurship, is that the word? It sounds weird. Connoisseuring. But yeah, so if you watch enough performance art and go into it more, you see that a lot of there's different ways of looking at it. It can come from dance, it can come from theater, and what looks at first to be outrageous, what seems outrageous at first, most often than not is commentary and reading between the lines and wordplay and what are you looking at. It is in its own right a very, very interesting kind of art form. It's the most transgressive, because you're seeing humans acting in ways that humans don't act.
I saw one the other day that it was quite cool. I don't know whether
you saw it on the screen or you saw it in real life.
On a screen.
See, that's.
But the idea of it, I think.
No, but cool. No, go ahead. Yeah, I'm curious.
But it was just. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say I liked it as an art piece, but I saw it and I was like, it's quite cool. Like,
clever.
Not even clever. It just looks like a cool. There was basically a huge robot arm. I don't know if you saw it, and then a brush pushing paint.
I've seen
huge
that.
amount of paint.
Yeah.
Across.
It was blood.
Blood. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well,
it's supposed to look like blood. Yeah.
It's supposed to look like blood. Yeah, and it was just a big squeegee going across the room.
You like that?
I liked it like visually. It was like, looks quite cool. Next. Move on. It wasn't. I wouldn't have thought I'll look into that a lot more. Why did they come up with this? It just like, cool. There's a big robot arm aimlessly going across a room. Yeah. Collecting paint, spreading it out, collecting it.
I've always personally not been a fan of pieces of art like that need a page of paper to explain it. But on the other end, if we didn't allow ourselves to think or like to spend time with art objects, and we expect to look at something for 5 seconds and understand it completely, then we're really oversimplifying art. And then if we oversimplify art, if we're in a world where someone creates something to hold meaning, if that's what they created it for, and we're saying, I should be able to understand that quick, what chance do we have of ever like really pushing our boundaries,
But
because then we're being like, everything should be simple, everything should be straightforward.
Because it's always hard to quantify what art is as well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I can open this chest and you'll see like loads of books on art theories, and everyone's just talking about different things. But it has to have the intent
of being art.
Oh my God! Like if someone takes my pillow and puts it on a pedestal and says it's art, I doubt it's art. Like, I just doubt, and although that's what people have done in the past, right? That's the beginning.
As soon as you say it, it's like, okay, that's an art piece. Especially...
But the best question is it though? and have the discussion. To have a discussion about a piece is the biggest respect I think you can give an art piece.
Okay,
This is some of the best respect.
the next thing I wanted, well, I didn't want, now I want to ask is where does the value come from? Like financial value.
I think owning a piece of history, I think that's, for me, oh, that's interesting that that's the first thing I said, because like ideally it would be that you have a priceless object or a one of a kind or whatever, and you own it or you have it so that you can appreciate it. You know, you have it close to you, and it's more than, it's not a piece of clothing, it's art, and it's like this represents me, or this is an extension of myself, and I claim it for myself. But I think most people in the art world who do buy art regularly do so for its trade value.
Yeah. And the interesting
as an
thing
investment.
is artists try to have the appearance of being more raw, not really tied to money for the most part.
It's a myth. It's a myth.
I mean,
artist myth. Starving artists till they make it, and even when they make it, they look like they're starving.
But they want to have that appearance a little bit as well.
Some people, yeah.
But the people who could afford crazy art pieces probably, not that they wouldn't appreciate them, but it's
roles, man. Show me 5 sports people who don't fit the sport archetype, who don't fit the sportsman or sportswoman archetype of I'm hardworking, I put in the work, and hard work pays off, or like, you know, humble as much as possible. Show me like someone
the hard
who
work ties in with it, I think. I mean, you have to work hard at it to have the payoff.
Yeah,
I
so
think. You're not gonna have like
exactly.
Well, you do, but you're not gonna have it's not common to have like overweight sports athletes.
Yes, so exactly what you said you could expand that kind of thinking to artists, because then you could say to be visionary or to create something that will inspire or change people's ways of thinking or alter it or nudge it in a different way, they need to think differently. They need it. It's part of their being almost. They do think differently, right? You could argue that. And therefore, they manifest their outer appearance or their behaviors differently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it comes with the territory. But at the same time, there are people who force it. But I think people who force things rarely do it consciously. And even when they do, even when they start forcing their identity to mold an outer model that they think is the right way to be or whatever, before long it becomes automatic and they don't realize they're doing it anymore. Yeah. It's hard to keep a front constantly. I think it's like difficult. Unless you're a psychopath or a sociopath or whatever.
Well, this is, I agree, to be honest. I don't think people are out trying to consciously be a certain way. It's just through habitat.
Like, that's one of my biggest pet peeves is a fake accent. Oh, my God. And you know, I don't know if you know what I mean.
But it's not, at that point, it's not a fake accent.
No, but
it's
that's
like
the
a
thing.
real fake accent.
It's yeah, I guess at that point it is their accent, but it's specifically theirs, and that's interesting. But at the same time, it sounds so. It's like how long have you been pretending that now this is how you sound?
Yeah, you've sold it to yourself.
And I wonder why that pisses me off, or like I don't know if it. I don't remember the last time
you
I
said
heard
it. You can't take it back.
Yeah, no, I know I can't, but I stand by it. It does annoy me, but yeah.
But I mean, it happened. There's so many different things that relates to, people putting on a front where it eventually becomes part of what they're doing, part of the personality. How you can't go and tell those people, oh, you're only doing this because of this reason. How do you break a mold like that?
No, I mean, first of all, that's why I was hesitating a bit to say, claiming that I do have that pet peeve, because who cares what they sound like? How does it affect me what they sound like?
Yeah.
In what, like, really?
Yeah.
So what? So what you sound like you're trying to sound like someone else? So what?
Yeah.
Like,
no, that's the way you should think about it. Like,
ideally, there are these things that I know people that ideally they have one thing, but then they can't help but feel annoyed. And that's the curious thing, is to find out why you're annoyed.
But the way to handle those things, I think, is to like accept that you're annoyed by it and then say, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter.
According to Carl Jung, right? That's what you would call a shadow projection, right? the moment you find something or someone's qualities annoying, you're supposed to, not supposed to, but it would be ideal if you start thinking about what about that person or what about this person's attitudes annoys me, and consequently realizing whether that is an attitude that I rejected completely from myself, and whether I have that attitude myself, or it's like, if I reject it from you, then obviously it's not something I do, you know? So maybe I have a fake sounding accent, and I just can't I can't accept that.
Or envious of something.
Or envious that they do it and that they don't care. Yeah. That might be it.
Or they don't have a concern about what people think about it.
It might be that. It might be that I feel so self-conscious, or I am quite a self-conscious person, that someone as perceivedly unself-conscious as them makes me jealous.
Does it annoy you about appearance as well? When people put on an appearance front?
No, actually, you mean like when they look good?
Not look good, like the fake accent equivalent look-wise.
What does that look? Well, I can't imagine what that is actually.
Like,
I'd like to.
For me,
it sounds interesting.
People who go over the top in a certain direction of like trying to look a certain way, like out the box or whatever. You see people
so you're talking about artists.
No, not artists, but like maybe, I don't know, a big green mohawk.
That's
not individual.
No, not as much, because at that point they're standing out, right? They're just daring to be different. So see, that's the thing, and that's where shadow projection is. Like, maybe there's a part of you that wishes you could do that, or feel like you could.
For me, I'm just like, it's a nothing thing.
It's a nothing thing. You're saying like, what do I think about it? Yeah, nothing either.
Yeah, I would say I don't see, like, because there's obviously people that go in an outrageous direction. I don't dress particularly well. I'm not like a very in with fashion sense. But
I'd argue that you're not as bad as some people who are just so lost.
I just don't think about it too much. I just kind of go with it. But people that really like big shaved hair, 6 foot mohawk, that's you intentionally going a certain way with that. I just don't understand really. I'm not bothered by it, but I'm just like, what's your thing? Like, what's the point of waking up spraying a green mohawk on every day or whatever it is?
I can only imagine the narrative that's mainstream, right? That I'm trying to say fuck the system, and I'm trying to make you look so you wake up, and all of that stuff. Punk, because I think mohawk, I think punk straight away, and it's more about.
It's a big move though, like to be like that's the look I'm going for.
Yeah, this is what I'm going for. I want people to wake up. I want people to mobilize. I want people to do things differently, and just stop being zombies. Stop saying that, or like radical shift. Like, why is everyone so content with the way things are? And if someone, and I almost get what they're saying, if that's what they're doing, I get what they're saying.
We just need to find somebody with a big green mohawk
and
for
ask
a podcast.
Them why.
No, just bring them on the show next time.
So we were talking about green mohawks.
We'll wrap it up quick.
Yeah.
Perfect. You see,
that would be great. You know, one day it's gonna be that we're gonna be like, we need someone with a green mohawk. We send out the request. Someone's like, yeah, I don't mind,
You're
and
hopeful.
he just beams up right next to you in your like digital presence, and you're like, so why the green mohawk? No, but
so that's my what is it? I can't even think of the word, so I'm not going to be able to do it. Where you travel to one place to another
segue
instantaneously. No,
teleportation.
That's my device, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I meant the digital presence.
So that's how, in my mind, that's how you teleport. You have to scan somebody exactly atom for atom and print them in the next place.
But it doesn't have to be atom for atom. It could be just the outer layer.
But then what's inside? You have to get all of it. You have to get the inside layers.
Oh, I can touch this projection.
It's a real thing. You move somebody from one place to another. You scan them atom for atom, delete their part, and then copy them into a new place.
It's not really quantum teleportation. It's cellular or like atomic teleportation. But like, my question about that is, what happens to consciousness? We're assuming that consciousness travels with this body, and that's an assumption.
I would assume.
You would assume that if we copy let's say it's done instantaneously and not atom by atom. We're saying as a group.
Mine's the most ineffective way to
Atom by
copy and
atom.
paste somebody.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You've heard of this hypothesis, right? Like, if you do this thing and you copy and paste the guy, the pasted version is what? The real one
It's
now?
a clone.
Yes, it's a clone. So what do you do to the old one? You kill him?
Yeah. You have to. You delete and replace him with a new one.
It's something
but you
they've talked about.
You save a 7-hour flight though. So pros and cons.
Yeah, but so like it's like saying it does, and this is what I've always thought.
I think
about
you're better
in sci-fi
off having a
films.
better plane.
This is what I've always.
Safer bet.
I was thinking about in sci-fi films when they do such a thing. It's like I'm gonna copy myself and send myself somewhere else. That person is me, but continuing with my thoughts. To everyone else, it's me, and that's all that matters to everyone else. But I don't want to die, dude. I don't want to die.
No, you wouldn't. I don't think.
Well,
In this idea, I think so. My personal opinion on if you copy cell for cell, like we're saying, copy every single part of every
all of
part
this,
of
all
you,
of this,
right?
we're assuming that consciousness is in matter. And
I assume.
Well, no, but let's just continue because then we can work with the hypothesis.
Okay.
Otherwise,
No, but I'm saying I assume that if you copy somebody atom for atom, I mean down to
the brain, the neurons,
but even what your like how much of your body is made up of different fluids, like everything has to match up.
Exactly copy. Yeah,
you know, like your testosterone level has to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
As
So
what
you're
you
saying
have.
you will get literally two ollies.
I would assume that you would carry on.
You would
carry on.
You would have two experiences of yourself.
I mean, if you copy and pasted and had two, I would assume the second one
What?
would carry
How
on
would
from the first.
Carry on from the first.
I think your memories and everything are obviously like
This
almost
is where
digitally.
It breaks down.
Almost digitally, a part of your brain. Like if your brain is
So
a
your
computer
hardware and
system,
software.
I think like your memories are literally. If you copy enough of yourself and can copy, but then again. We don't know enough when you get into a really, really small level of stuff. What are you copying?
Let's play simply. Let's assume the things we're assuming and then discuss it. Because I was talking to my sister, I think, on the way to work one day about this idea. We were listening to an audiobook and everything.
Which idea? Copy and pasting people.
Copy and pasting consciousness and like teleportation and so on. And I had an idea of how you would actually achieve it if we're assuming that consciousness is in your model, which is it is based on stored data, yeah, and it's not some much more mystical thing,
okay.
Which is what I think.
Let's play that out then.
So in your version, they copy and paste me, or let's say they copy and paste subject A exactly. So now you have two subject A's. Their consciousness is not linked. Obviously not. They're just the same copy somewhere else. Even in the same room, let's say.
This is for me that you like should I answer?
Yeah. I'm
okay,
asking.
so this for me is where it would get complicated because you have to understand what makes people.
Let's say we're saying we have the tech, we have the idea.
But how? What are you assuming?
For me, go on.
You go down to DNA level.
Yeah,
right?
we're presuming that.
Okay.
We're presuming first we have one presumption. Or one assumption. I don't know how to do science. we're saying assumption one. We've got science sorted out. Okay. Assumption two, consciousness is in matter.
Okay.
And assumption three, a copy of subject A is subject A.
Okay.
So let's play it out, and then let's see.
You said they're not. I think everybody would be linked equally anyway. Like we're all linked. Not even like you say consciously. Aside from matter, you're thinking outside of physical. You're thinking consciously, right?
When I say consciousness, yeah. For
but
me, this is my personal
consciousness
thing,
down to even matter would be tied and linked in. Like we're more closely intertwined, I suppose, than we think.
And when you say
the difficult part, I mean, I'm thinking physically still. I don't think they'd be related consciously. But having said that,
I guess
having said that though, like, what is a relation between people consciously? Like, talking is a relationship consciously. Like, how you're communicating with people with your mind, which is not physical.
Yeah, you're
Verbally,
using your
hearing,
mind, and then your mouth is creating the bandwidth limit, the bandwidth exchange.
But maybe it is. It's still physical. You're moving
Sound
waves to
and
get a
downloading
certain
information.
waves.
Yeah.
So how is everything is physical to some extent. Hearing people, seeing things.
But I can't translate to you how I'm experiencing you or how I'm experiencing the world. I can describe it to you, but you can never see it from my view.
Yeah,
really.
But that is so then.
And that's where consciousness.
But then the shared consciousness is not possible. Not possible. But then less realistic. Like you have a view of the world. That's your only projection. Yes. You can't force your view. Like literally, what you touch, feel, whatever. Not even that. Like deeper feeling than that. Like you can't force what you think on other people.
Obviously not. Like in the most practical sense, when we say down to concrete, let's say we're using an atomic or even we're using an atomic model of the universe. I can't make someone else think and see the world the way I do. Obviously, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, that's where psychologists, at least in depth psychology, have been talking about something called the unconscious, right? Where they're saying that human consciousness has two types of unconsciousness, which is things that we don't bring to light in our day-to-day experience. We have the personal unconscious, which is the story of our life from birth to existence to death, in the shadow, or in the areas that we can't experience. So, for example, I've lived my life. I had a traumatic childhood experience, abuse, for example. If I've repressed some memories or some things into the unconscious, I truly don't remember things, and I truly can't
easily access them
at all. It's unconscious,
and that's a
deep
personality trait.
It becomes more than in Jungian psychology. Personality is a collection of factors, right?
You've obviously been reading a lot of.
I'm so deep into it. Like I'm so
recently though.
Yeah, I mean,
and he's a psychologist.
5-6 months. Yeah, he's a Swiss psychoanalyst.
At what?
From like the 1900s to the 1950s.
Okay.
Yeah, he was born a bit.
So it's early.
Yeah,
psychologist, really.
Yeah. I
mean,
he basically worked with Sigmund Freud, who's known, I guess, as the father of psychoanalysis. The talking cure, right? That's what this kind of psychology is. You talk and you sort out your mental states.
And this is only since the 1900s.
Yeah.
I mean,
more or less since the 1900s. A bit before that.
In the 1600s, people went lying down on a sofa, talk about their problems.
They might have been doing the same function by talking to a pastor, to the church, and even then they couldn't do it securely, because if they said the wrong thing,
and do you think it's
put to death?
Yeah. Do you think it's massively beneficial to be able to talk about things with, like, specifically with
someone who's not judging you and is trying to help? Yes, I think. I mean,
do you think it has to be a psychologist, or do you think it can be like, imagine you have a friend that you confide with a lot?
Yeah, a friend that you can confide with and who is mature psychologically is very important. Of course, I mean, I would find it hard pressed to find a professional who would say having less friends is better.
But the problem is the opposite of it.
But it's not the same as professional help.
The problem is the opposite of having friends who, or like whoever you can talk to, whether it's a psychologist or not, is obviously good without judgment. The problem is confiding in people who judge, like the opposite of not judging, like who really judge in small details. You put layers on after that, I think.
Sometimes
like layers and boundaries. Like that's the problem, I think, like with the Instagram and social media and everything, is people doing the opposite of going to see a psychologist. Is people seeking, like putting themselves out to some extent.
In a certain way, and then seeking validation for that, but then their actual inner attitudes are not true to the things they're presenting.
It's not even that. Imagine the first Instagram page or whatever, or the first Instagram post you would think would be more raw, would be like, oh, this is what I'm doing or whatever. This is more like,
that's interesting.
If you could,
I get you.
And then you would bend yourself to people. It's more negative
Carl Jung calls it the persona. When I say the word persona, what comes to mind? If anything, I'm curious. Are you at all aware with the idea of
At
persona?
first, straight away, I thought of what you deeply put yourself as, like your deep traits of personality. But then I thought secondly, straight away after that, thought of what you put yourself out to be.
Yes, exactly. So the first part you described is what is called the ego self.
Yeah.
This is what you right now, looking me in the eyes, would consider as your personality. What you can bring into mind, oh, I'm a sporty person, I don't dress the best, or whatever things. Oh, I'm sorry for making these stereotypes of an Ollie.
I'm glad I have friends that I can confide with openly. Don't judge.
Who don't judge as
Shit
much.
Dresser.
Hey, I didn't judge you. You
No,
said
I'm
it
joking,
yourself.
I'm
I know.
kidding.
Anyways, and then the persona is exactly what you said. Your persona is
What you portray.
is what you choose to portray outwardly, and it's a choice. It's an unconscious choice. You know, you choose as you're growing up. You find qualities and you meet people, or you play in the playground with kids, and you notice that being an aggressive boy garners respect and no one bullies you after. And you think, oh, this is something I can have as a quality, and I keep it to myself. And then you hold it, and it works for you. And if it works for you enough, you say, this is me. This is part of me.
There's also another, it's
the mask you present.
The ego side is a little bit different. That's more, okay, anyway, regardless. There's always been a debate of nature versus
Nurture.
Nurture is deeply rooted DNA
Instinct.
traits. It's hard to quantify, and it's not tangible to know what extent is, because to say there's no DNA relevance is, or bodily,
Like genetic influences, dispositions.
genetic, and there's so many factors that we take
Biochemistry,
for granted.
right?
Biochemistry is
Yeah.
huge.
It's
Like
huge.
if your
This is-
testosterone level changes, you're a different person.
This is
right?
This is why psychoanalysis is a bit extreme and radical, and that honestly nowadays in modern psychology courses in university, for example, Freud and Carl Jung are presented in 2 hours, and then they are brushed aside. These are the old ways of thinking. This is not what confirms with our models of reality.
And the new and a more modern way of thinking
is psychiatry, is medication, is neurological mapping.
Medication
really
is the dangerous one.
Because
You're not
go on.
talking can be harmful to some extent, but it's always recoverable,
slow and gradual
Yeah.
changes that you might be able to change from the inside out.
For me, medical, what would you like?
Intervention, or like you mean
Intervention,
pharmaceutical
I suppose.
intervention?
Yeah. But that's super common now.
What is it called? Pharmacodynamics or something? It's like actually in playing with your internal
But
your
the thing is,
brain chemistry.
we are fragile mentally,
Oh,
but
so
we're way
fragile.
more fragile
Physiologically.
Physiologically.
Yeah.
Like if you change and I've done it. I've had different, not like going seeking
those
pharmaceutical
experiences,
stuff,
yeah.
but I've
It's
had
just happened.
Yeah,
When
but
you haven't slept for a few days, when
Yeah.
you have a fever and your heat is too up.
But there's
your
things
temperature.
that you can take. Like for example, I've had surgeries before, and I've been prescribed in America really strong pain medication. And after a week, first few days I took it because I was in a lot of pain, and then I thought, and it got rid of the pain completely, but there was a lot of side effects with it, and very quickly.
What were the side effects?
I mean, I was out of it for 2 days or for a week. Like I was out of it.
Like you could not operate heavy machinery.
No, no
100%.
way. I was just like,
So,
it was flat. Everything was really flat. There was no. It was just a
your
blur
conscious,
for
your
5
consciousness
days.
as well. Everything was grey.
Yeah, but it was like really, really. I can't remember what. I suppose it was like codeine or something.
I don't. I'm not too well
But
versed in pain.
and I realized like I was. Like I guess I was getting addicted to them. Like after a few days, or like
What?
4 or 5. I mean, I was like,
you felt like you need to be on them, otherwise the pain would come back. Maybe that's the kind of
it was a
addiction.
weird, like it felt like it was a slippery slope. Like I cut it off, and I was like, okay, after a week, like the pain's not that bad, and I'm not going to take more than I need. Like, I need to be able to feel the pain of, like, if it's bad.
So you can, yeah.
And I can't carry on. Like, I was just, like, out of it. I was like, everything was just a mush blur for 5 days.
And what's interesting is you have some people whose psychological pain is so strong that they use painkillers. So
a lot of people.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying this is people.
But that, I mean, it's in America at the moment. It's the opioid
addiction, opioid craze or whatever. Yeah,
but
fentanyl,
that's the same thing, right? That's
it depends. It depends on what. It depends on what. On which parts of your body it's hitting. For example, you have analgesics, which block pain receptors. And then you have others which increase the pleasure, thus numbing down the pain. So it's like different ways of approaching pain management.
But it's as soon as you start taking anything like that, that's really quickly like change your thoughts, change your feelings.
It's drastic.
It's really drastic.
It's drastic. That's
And then people assume that they need them. That's the worst part. Like, I really need these to keep going or whatever.
Yeah, because when you're raised a certain way and they say, or like you notice on TV, for example, which is the craziest thing. You notice people popping pills on movies and on TV, and you say, oh, the depression is going down, for example. You're like, I don't feel the best. Maybe that's what I need. And as soon as that idea is in your head, what's going to fight it? And then you do research online. You'll be like, yeah, if these are your symptoms, you might be depressed. And trying some of these things, talk to your psychiatrist might help. You're like, sold. Mm-hmm. I just have to swallow something. I'm like, you feel better? Sold. And what? Your head, quick fixes. Everyone wants a quick fix. No one's going to say, I have to do 90 weeks with someone talking to them.
Issues, right?
Symptom. It's symptom. It's attacking symptoms and not attacking the actual problem.
Which is what medicine is. Like, it doesn't solve issues. It's not
really preventative. It's curative.
No, but it cures only symptoms. Like, if you have
true.
If you have a common cold, then the medicine should.
But for example, I hear what you're saying. But for example,
you basically wait it out, right?
But example, you break your bone, right? You do cure it by setting it and putting some medicines or whatever they do, and medicine has a way of like helping you heal faster and optimally.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's curing. There's no.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's not, no, I'm just saying. I'm just wondering if that vibes with your way of looking at it, because I think that's curing, and that's like, I think that's cure.
I don't have a specific like way of thinking about it. I think in some cases it's probably necessary.
Not all medicine is symptom alleviating. Some of it's actually curing, I think.
Yeah.
Like you have a wart, you apply this thing and removes the wart. That's a cure.
But specifically with like, I mean, it's what do you call that? Like that type is not personality disorder, like depression, really.
Depression is major depression is a personality. Is it?
But what do people take medication for more so? Like, because now it's obvious, right? There's like
personality disorders. Like, for example, if you're bipolar, till now I don't think people have found anything better than lithium to take.
We should have. It seems like it's still so many gray areas. Like, we should be further along with this, right?
You know what's interesting is who's they? There's
you say they a lot,
I
but
know,
like
I
the other
say
people that need to sort problems out.
No, but I watched this. I don't know if it's called a symposium or a lecture, but there's this like a panel talk between a philosopher, a psychiatrist, and a psychologist.
Sounds like the start of a joke.
Yeah, I know. I think, but like I might be getting it wrong always, because I think the psychiatrist is the one who prescribes stuff, right? A psychologist talks to people, and the philosopher just talks about talking.
Just talks about things.
Talks about knowledge, right? And the psychiatrist was obviously defending her side and was saying, I had a psychotic patient, and he couldn't handle the world. If he wasn't medicated, he would go down the street, burn things, burn himself. So we had to medicate him. As soon as we medicated him, he got better.
Problem solved.
The psychiatrist was saying, yes, but if we could get, what she was trying to say is we couldn't even get him to a point where he could talk to you. And so on that point, yes, there is, and that's what I guess what I'm trying to say is there is a delicate balance between all of these things, The second point, what I found interesting is that near the end of the panel talk, and it was a well-respected panel talk in like some big British university. I think it was British. I'm pretty sure it was British. As they found the studies that, unfortunately, all of it, from psychiatry to psychology, talk psychology, the numbers are like just above 50% on curing. So it's a bit depressing. It makes you feel like, oh, so there's really no cure.
That's interesting though, because what is defined as I'm cured now? You're talking about going and seeing a psychologist,
I mean,
sitting down, and then. But this is, I mean, we joke about it.
You go to a psychologist, say I have anxiety. Sometimes I get triggered and I feel like I'm literally about to die, and it lasts 2 minutes, 2 hours, and then I go back to normal. I want to stop having that. And so your benchmark for cure is that over time, this should be happening less and less.
They self-diagnose themselves as cured, in a way.
Yes.
They say, I'm not having those feelings anymore.
Yes. It's all self-diagnosed. Yeah.
But, then I kind of feel like we're really far behind with where we're at with... I mean, if you say psychology in terms of everything we know about mind science.
Yeah, mind
right?
is psyche. Or
We're miles behind compared to what we can do with body terms. We go to space frequently.
This is why Carl Jung, in my opinion, is really important, because I feel like when people go into his stuff, and it might first seem kooky and out there, he is trying to apply the scientific method to things you cannot actually observe or falsify.
But it's difficult to do that. It's just that again is a slippery slope.
But this is what every single human being right now does. You just take it for granted without the experiments yourself.
Or you stop at a point where you're like, okay, this is before you get to the real scientific part of proving what you're doing or whatever across the board.
Yeah.
If you keep digging, eventually you're like, okay, this makes sense for the most part. Like,
This is exactly. So you're using something called. I guess. Most people, as I said, what I meant is we use the scientific method of observing empirically things, and until we're proven otherwise, we continue with that working model, right?
Yeah.
A hypothesis.
Yeah.
And this is what he's trying to apply to uncharted territory inside the mind. But because people can't disprove something, so for example, his models, in my opinion...
So instead of...
Let me finish it, because his approach, in my opinion... While it might not be falsifiable, till now, for me, from what I've known for the past few months, has been covering reality. You can, I could notice people interacting a certain way or certain issues, or people are fighting and the reasons they're fighting with each other. And according to the Jungian model, it makes sense. So till now, it hasn't broken down as a hypothesis. But because it's so out there, because it's saying that... there are things in your brain that you're not aware of and that influence your day-to-day, people are like, what the hell?
The difficult part of it is, I mean, in science, generally, it's like you said, things often override the past theory of things, right? Like, until it's disproven or something else is more provable, the last one is
the working
overrided or whatever.
Oh, you mean superseded and whatever, yeah.
But with psychology, it's not that black and white. It's hard to get to a hypothesis for things, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. So I feel Carl Jung is closer to quantum physics in terms of theories, in terms of the way we approach the world, than anything else. Because in quantum physics, for example, they try to observe as much as they can, but the things that they observe are small. Mm-hmm. They at a certain point, it was just theories, right? Yeah. It's only recently that we're actually saying we can make computers out of this.
Yeah.
But Jungian analysts, for example, wouldn't exist if they weren't curing some people, if it wasn't working for some people.
Yeah.
You know? So,
but you could say that again about the other methods of psychology.
Yeah,
they say it's also working.
There's 1,000 schools. There's 1,000 schools of psychotherapy.
At the time, he didn't know about what do you call them? Pharmaceuticals to help.
No, they had
disorders.
They were of course
in the 1900s.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, of course.
This is the other thing.
They were already experimenting with all of it. His mentor, I think, was a neuroscientist, whatever version they had back then. He was a brain doctor.
A brain doctor.
Yeah.
That probably was what it was.
Or was Freud a brain doctor originally, based on neurology?
That's a weird jump as well. Yeah. Like if you
go from like brain to mind,
but you're talking about physically opening up.
Yeah, and
fixing.
Sorting. Oh yeah,
I mean, they couldn't have fixed brains back then. There was no fixing brains in 1900s.
They would make a whole. Yeah. They had their versions of it, and for some it worked. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, of course.
Even now, imagine now going and saying you need an operation on your brain. You're like, that's the most extreme, right?
Yeah.
That's more extreme than heart surgery.
It's horrifying. It changes.
And imagine 1900s. They're like, oh, you have a thing. How do you know back then? What do they do? How do they know you have an issue with your brain back then?
They'll say this is your memory center. Your memories are not that good. Let's open you up. I don't know. I don't think that's what they did. But
it's a different game back then. Like now is scary enough.
You can imagine that. In 100 years, they would look at us now and think we were animals.
100%. Less than 100 years.
If we're not.
In 50 years.
If we haven't ruined everything.
They
will look at us and be like, we are animals.
Like I keep saying to you, I think that we're still understanding more and growing exponentially, I think. But we kind of forget it now. And you think about...
It's not exponential.
I think so. Of course, I think.
But like you could... What? Okay.
The way I think it works, why I think it's exponential.
You're not talking literally though.
Yeah, literally. In terms of what?
Exponentially I should feel like in my lifetime of 28 years so far, I should feel like every year is a big step for my own thing. For me, psychologically, I think it has been.
No, I don't mean, I mean like...
You mean in every sense, yeah.
Every sense.
Okay,
maybe with...
So I'm just saying it's not exponentially. Maybe logarithmically.
I think so. Actually, I take it back. I actually think so because the more time goes on, exponentially meaning that...
It doubles every single step.
Okay, yeah, as doubles. Or maybe not doubles, but it's increasingly.
Oh, see,
at
that's
least.
what I'm saying. I was trying to get the word exponential. I was trying to make sure that it's... Because exponential is crazy.
I think it's going crazy.
It's crazy, but not
because
exponentially
we take things for granted. I think it is exponentially crazy
like
at the moment. Because... Even since we're like, okay, we had the internet, and since then nothing's really happened.
It's crazy.
It's not.
We
the
went
case.
from WAP to.
But it's not the case. Like we think, okay, since we've had the internet, what's happened? What's changed? Really, everything all the time. Like we're constantly.
Yeah.
Things are, I think, getting exponentially insane. We're understanding so much more about everything every day. If you look into it and think like, what's going on in the world?
There's another thing.
There's
another dynamic
all the
that
time.
You didn't realize.
The way I think, reason I think, it, the way I think it works, the reason I think it works like that, and the way I think it works is because I mean this is pretty obvious, but if you think about it, it makes sense. When things are all of a sudden understood or made, people then have that option, and that's problem solved, and build again off of that option, and it spreads like we're talking about. We were talking about artificial intelligence in general in vehicles or in things recently, right? Mm-hmm. We're like greedy all of a sudden. We're always so greedy for like, okay, that's all we've got. I was just saying it now, like, oh, shouldn't we be further ahead with what we understand about the mind? But we're so greedy and so entitled for like we should have way more than we have already.
And that's where the philosopher comes in those three people. He's the one who should, and that's what they do for like AI at the moment. They have philosophers who think about potential pitfalls and benefits. But you need to have someone who can think outside, and then the scientist implements.
But we're like, the reason I say we're greedy for stuff is like you don't think we're growing exponentially still, right?
I don't think it's exponential. I think we are growing quite fast.
So you think in phases?
What I'm trying to say is exponential really means it's a certain rate exponential, like within like literally every year, just double,
just getting faster, quicker. Whatever. Like the quicker time goes on, the faster it gets.
Faster, quicker, yes.
But that's all exponential is.
No.
It doesn't have to be 3 times by every...
Okay, I need to know what exponential means because I don't. Like, I'm doubting.
All I mean by that then is that it gets... I think we're learning more, and definitely technology is getting better, quicker and quicker.
I think you're right. Exponential growth is exhibited when the rate of change, the change per instant or unit of time of a mathematical function, is proportional to the function's current value. So basically, all that needs is there needs to be a link between what's changing and the speed. It's not about double or anything.
No, it's quicker growth, quicker,
yeah,
and more.
It's a curve. It's a curve going upwards
and keeps getting shorter and steeper as a curve. Quicker and quicker and quicker.
Yeah, towards
which
singularity
I think is
and
what
stuff. Yes,
is happening.
At this point, I don't disagree. I
And
guess
maybe,
for me, in my head, I was just like,
maybe we're
imagining
not
like
at
really
the,
quick.
Yeah, but maybe we're not at the point now where the curve is going straight up and we're...
Yeah. You've heard of the singularity thing, right?
Yeah, so a little bit, but not...
But you know,
I haven't looked
it's
into it a
exactly
whole
what
lot.
you're saying. There's a certain point where it just becomes, every day becomes unimaginably different.
I think that I'm a believer in that. Like,
yes, it is natural.
Not assume that that's the case,
AI
because
singularity is what they call
but
it. That's one thing.
I would say if we keep going on the track we're at now, because we take it for granted so much. Like, and the thing is, people are like, you see it all the time. People are like, oh, I wish I was born in this time. I wish I was born in that
past.
time. Yeah. No, now people are like, oh,
no, I'm saying they wish they were born in the past.
Yeah, this isn't my era. Like, this time isn't for me.
I'm an old soul.
I'm an old soul. I wish I was born at that time. Believe me, you don't wish you were born at that time.
The world wasn't that
like,
easy for a
you would have been
person.
eaten when you were 4 years old. Like, you're not cut out for the
or die from
1420s.
like polio.
Yeah. Like, we take for granted all the time
100%.
how much, like, we have so much, especially like
running water.
I think it's in
sewage
this
systems.
Even, I mean, we're thinking, I mean, yeah, obviously those things. Now I think everything is changing quicker and
what
quicker.
do we do with the information that we're given? We find the best filters to use.
Yeah. But, I mean, what else? Like, we have it so good. We have it so easy now. What else are we supposed to do?
We should be giving back. We should try to find what actually...
That's the most logical
we should
way
be
of doing
trying
things.
to give... We should be trying to advance things for the better.
It sounds like we're trying to be, like...
I'm
No, but
I'm actively trying to
no,
myself,
but how we're not really. I mean, it sounds like we're trying to like, oh yeah, be,
I mean, I'm trying to see the way I see it is I'm actively trying by sorting my mental state out first.
Okay.
Because like otherwise, how am I going to help people? Because then I might be deluded in the ways I think I'm helping people.
I think everyone thinks that though.
Yeah.
I mean, not to that extent.
But this is the thing. I don't think people are working inside out. I think they're working outside in, or like they're working outside. They don't even want to admit that they're part of the problem. I'm ready to admit that a big part of the problem is myself.
Okay.
I am. Anyways, but that's like...
But a lot of world issues are easily solvable, really. We dance around it.
But that's what I'm saying. Isn't that like... That's the kind of assumption that we can say it's easily solvable, but are we just going to apply a line of best fit and say we'll find a solution that benefits the most people and then everyone else can fuck off? I don't know. If it doesn't apply to me, for example, I wouldn't vote yes for it.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like before when you said, for me, it sounded like you were saying we need to focus our efforts better, which I think.
I'm saying everyone individually can develop themselves, especially with the tools they have now, to a point where they can find something that they can contribute specifically to the world.
But it's easy to say that
individually can contribute.
But it's
otherwise we're all just the same.
It should be obvious, but like, why? Like, everybody has the tools to be able to do so much better now.
But we have all of these unconscious projections and problems. I think that's
but the other issue is, like, for example, we were joking before about you saying they a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think 99% of people's view is they of everything. Like,
yes,
problems that should be solved are done by them.
Yes.
And them is like a group of people working in a laboratory somewhere.
It's a rejection of responsibility.
Yeah, but nobody wants to be those people. You know?
It's a rejection.
And there's probably a few people actually actively out like, okay, I'm going to save the world.
I'm going to solve cancer. Yeah. And then, of course, these kind of people, they're the ones who are solving things. But then in their own personal lives, they have the dark stuff as well.
Probably.
So it's all balanced.
Across the ball.
Yeah. It's all a matter of balancing.
But going back to the exponential growth side of it, now we have more and more access to easily be able to change things, even for ourselves. Like if you want to learn or help people, now is so much easier to be able to help or learn things yourself, or
maybe I get what you're saying, but see, for
even
example,
this
like,
online discussion, that alone, like people giving input or being able to give input. But for the most part, people don't want to do that, I don't think.
I feel like even all of those online discussions sound good, but when you actually read what people's comments are, very rarely is someone trying to give a logical, kind, step-by-step explanation of what's going on. Instead, they're just saying what they wanted to hear.
Or even worse than that, like what you know that I used to mess around a lot, like on Instagram,
Commenting,
like just for the fun of it, like
you
getting
enjoyed
involved.
social media,
Not even that, like getting on post, but
that's
some people actively, like as if it's their job, go on like
crusades.
They're haters.
Yeah, they're crusaders. They're like they're finding a cause to fight for.
But what it is,
it's a blind. It's obvious to me. It's obvious, and that's only because of the Carl Jung stuff, all because of the Jungian psychology. I'd rather go a crusade attacking everyone else than work on myself. It's that basic. It is that basic. You know, your stance on abortion, for example, is contrary to my ideals, and therefore you're a monster.
So instead of trying to understand or take a step back,
exactly. You know, what does someone poking their belly have to do with anything?
But most people, I think like that. Most people are thinking like, these are my views that are right.
Yeah.
And
they don't question even where they receive those views. They don't. There's no. Self-awareness is at an all-time low, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm being drastic by saying it.
But we don't know. But
no, that's not true. It might be. You know what? You know, Ollie, I honestly think I might stand behind that comment, because what's happening is, before, people didn't need to be self-aware because they had ritual initiations, right? You had a tribal elder or you had a sheikh to tell you how to think.
But I think also you had more time.
Change.
You had more time to be able to self-reflect,
search your soul of who you are.
Like just you weren't so. I think I'm not
you didn't
against
have to struggle
your idea
making a living,
because you're. Well, not only that. I mean, now I think it should be easier to make a living now, but I don't think that's the main issue. It should be, but
a lot of people are really having such a bad time.
But I don't think that's the issue. The issue is like any spare time is not really
used constructively,
not like used to self-reflect. It's more like you can put all your ideas, all your things out onto.
And to be fair, self-reflection doesn't come naturally to everyone. That's one thing that I know I take for granted. Some people just to self-reflect is the thing that's hardest for them.
Yeah,
and that's fine. But
well, it's like we said at the start of this podcast, like there's certain things that like the fake accent you could say to people and it's straight away it's like
well, how am I supposed to sound?
No, it's like
but actually
Avengers force field, like just like you're not getting through this.
It's a topic that doesn't enter consciousness.
No.
And so it's like talking to a brick wall completely. They can't even bring the words to address what you brought up.
Yeah. And I'm like, I think I'm also bad for that. Like if people have harsh things, the first thing you want to think of is like, no, it's not. And then if you take time to like really think about the things or the negative feedback you get, constructive criticism.
I think I am so egotistical that I would like to see those kind of things told to me and stuff.
And it's funny because you say that, but most of the time when it's like, oh, by the way, this, you're like, nope, next. I don't want to hear that. Next topic.
No, it's not that it's next topic and stuff. It's not that I'm saying I don't. It's not that I want to change the subject when that happens to me. For example, it's more like you said the words constructive criticism, for example. But whenever jokingly, I know you do it jokingly, and other people do it. It's not really constructive, the criticism. It comes across as like, this is an observation I made. What are you going to do about it? I'm like, I don't have to do anything.
Me saying that, or people in general?
You/others. Like when they bring up topics, like they'll say, you say you're welcome to criticism. But what they do instead is they say, look, I observed this about you. And I'm like, okay. but then they bring it as if like now I'm supposed to
Fix that.
or do something about it, where it's like they just came with, it's like people who are in a company, they come, I noticed this problem, and you know what I mean? It's not really constructive at that point. It's just criticism.
So what would you consider constructive criticism? Like for me, okay,
Constructive,
this is a funny one. Like obviously today we were talking about interrupting.
Yes.
This is a funny one.
Yes. I
what
think this episode over the last one,
people will listen back and go,
no, I do interrupt a lot for sure.
but it's
like,
not, it's a, I did it then for the sake of it.
No, it's fine.
No, joking. But
anyways, no, I think this episode I've done it better than the last two.
Probably.
I have been trying. It's just.
But you don't really get. It's not really an issue, I don't think. But it's like
because
it's
think
one of those things
we're
that
like buddy pals that
we don't actually care.
Yeah, I would assume so.
But you wouldn't consider that constructive criticism.
No, I think I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because for example, like you mentioned earlier, you're like, hey, so the interrupting was really high, and I was like, I was like, fair enough. It probably really was, and all I can do now is not
blank it out.
No, all I can do now is try to do it less.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, though. That is constructive criticism, no?
Yeah, but I brought it up, but that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes people bring things, and you're like, what do I do with this thing you brought to me now?
But
this is an example where I could do something about it.
Oh, okay. So, but that is constructive criticism. You're saying people come to you with things like, "Oh, this is what I suggest. This is my constructive criticism," and it's not. It's just criticism. It's just like a bomb. Here you go. Have that.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like that, and sometimes it feels like, I don't know. Like
I think I know what you're trying to explain. You're trying to explain people giving you information that you have to fix their issues as well.
It feels like that. It really feels like you have an issue with something that involves me, and then somehow
I'm should change it for them.
And it's fine. It's not that I don't want to. It's more like, where do I even start with that? You know, at least with that, like that thing, we could just say it was a criticism, or it was a note. It was an observation. Even we'll start with that. And then it's something that I can do something about.
With what? With things in general?
The interrupting thing. Because then it's like, true. Because
so what do you consider constructive criticism?
Okay. I guess we've had to do it a lot in art school, right? Constructive criticism. It's like you go into the class, and we had hours for something called crits. Literally, and my whole course was called Visual and Critical Studies. It's all about criticism for growth. And so you look at someone's work. They're going to show you the work. They're going to explain why they did the work, what were the problems they found, for example, and stuff, and how they solved the problems. And then you start criticizing it. It doesn't have to be constructive. You just go and criticize it. Critical, like proper criticism.
To people in your classes.
To people in classes. You say, you said you were trying to achieve this. For me personally, I feel you did or didn't on these points. And so, for example, you were trying to paint Yogi Bear and have it as a criticism on consumerism because he eats sandwiches. And I'll be like, yeah, but to be fair, all I see is Yogi Bear, and your connotation of it supposed to be linking to consumerism doesn't connect, because all I see is a drawing of Yogi Bear. Maybe, see, and this is where it becomes construct on top of their supposed.
Okay.
It's like, maybe if you put sandwiches or iPhones in his pocket or something, or in his basket, or something like that, maybe there's a link there that I can say, okay, I can see consumerism. Or maybe if you put Yogi Bear in Tesco's, for example, or in Carrefour, like in a supermarket chain, maybe I'll be understanding, a bit of the consumerist line. But there's a bit of problem suggestion.
Okay.
Whereas other people say, you just look ugly. Why is your eyebrow raised? Or,
okay.
It's just like, okay, but what do I do about that? Unraise my eyebrow?
But it's a fine line then. It's the difference between like, hey,
trying to help.
I think you interrupt a lot. Maybe we could try not interrupt, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
like it's just a thing afterwards.
Yeah, but
it's the add-on.
Yeah, like for example, like your thing was the solution was in the problem. Like, hey, you interrupt too much, so interrupt less.
So in general, you think like in work scenarios or whatever, it should be, right?
Professionally, it should be constructive always.
Yeah.
It should
All
be.
the time. It should be, here's an issue, and
Yeah.
here's how I think personally we could solve it.
Otherwise, we should
Problem-
be paying employees a premium if we're expecting them to problem solve
Your issues, your own
the
issues.
management's issues. Yes.
And I mean, that's probably for the most part how things are
Yeah.
in general. Like, things are very rarely then constructive criticism.
Very
Normally
rarely.
things are
This
just
is
criticism.
This is my yes.
Yeah.
I yes. You will, and you'll see it online. Maybe from now on, you'll be like, they're just attacking. They're just attacking each other.
That is just the internet
It's
now.
just the internet.
There's like sometimes rarely good ideas, things you're like, oh, that's good, positive direction.
Yeah.
Then there's a comment thread
But
of
there's-
criticism.
There is the opposite as well. I mean, it's easy to always find the bad things, but
Yeah.
the opposite is like people who just like, it's lovely, that's nice, thanks, subscribe, love it.
Those are mums.
It's nice. It's nice.
Those are grandmas that don't know how to use the
It's-
internet yet.
Yeah, they didn't get into the parts where they hate things.
Isn't that? It's kind of. It's a pessimistic view on it, but also it's a little bit dark. That like people's like for the most part, you would say on the internet,
to troll?
not even troll. Most comments are probably not positive, right? Or not? Or do we focus too much on the positives? There's a lot
I
of people.
think we focus too much on the negatives. I think we
Oh, sorry,
naturally,
sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
I think we
That's what I
naturally
meant.
gravitate towards the
Sorry,
negative.
I meant focus on the
Negatives.
negatives.
I
I
think
don't know if
so.
that was a Freudian slip somehow. there, but
Or maybe
we
you
don't
want to
focus
on the positive. Yeah,
maybe we
that's
don't focus on
unconscious saying
the
focus on the positive.
single comments which are just heart or stars or whatever.
I like those. I actually like them. I laugh. I don't hate them, but there is. I could go on about
But
human
why?
psychology.
Of course,
It's lovely.
of course, we would gravitate towards the negatives. Like I'm,
So we could
I'm,
pick sides.
I'm really bad for this as well. Like I could have 10 good things happen in a day, and one thing is a slip up, and that's my day.
Yeah.
That's the thing that like
It's I forgot.
I've given people my secret now.
I forgot what it's called. If it's primacy, recency. I know that's about memory. The first thing you remember and the last thing you remember in a group of things are the most memorable.
But it's not first or last. It's more like the negative thing for me is the one that
has
stands
more
out.
weight.
A lot more weight for
Okay.
me, and I'm envious a little bit of people who can sweep negative things like that under the rug. Like I'm not like that. I take things almost personally. I
Too
suppose.
close. No,
Yeah.
I would argue that you could have two types of people. You could have people who inherently view actions that happen to them. It's okay. So we took psychology class, like a basic thing in high school together.
A lifetime ago.
Do you remember something called the locus of control?
I think so.
Basically,
Vaguely.
yeah. Go on.
No,
Try.
very vaguely.
Try. Oh, good attempt.
Okay, let me try. Say it again. It's
The locus of control. It's if I'm not mistaken, yeah.
no.
Okay. It's basically a feeling of where
I knew that.
yeah. It's the sphere of influence or sphere of control that you feel affects your life. If the locus of control is outside, you feel like outside affects you really like if your locus of control is externalized. I don't know the right ways of saying it.
I had a different idea in
Yeah,
mind.
so
Good job I didn't say it. I had in mind the like a feeling that you can't control outside.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, so locus of control is that. So for example, if your locus of control, I don't know if the term is interior, exterior, or large or small. I don't know the way of saying it, but basically, on one end, your locus of control doesn't involve the outside world. So all you're doing is you're saying I'm responsible for my life. But if your locus of control at the other end, you're saying life is responsible for me.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought then.
Yeah. So for you, for example, for the things to affect you, small or big, I would assume you're saying that what happens exterior to you affects you much more strongly than someone who's saying, this happened. I'm not saying I deserve it, but I'm saying I can control my reaction or my behavior or my feelings towards what's just happened. So
what does that come down to? Willpower or
honestly, I think balance or equanimity, right? That's what they call it. When over time, if you can say that person just cut me off, fine, we didn't get into an accident. But now some other person will say this person cut me off and gets mad and everything. There's some unconscious elements there that they're not
And you think you can train yourself?
I definitely have noticed this straight away after I started Jungian therapy. I used to have a special place in my personal hell for people who rubberneck in traffic. For example, there's a traffic accident, and now you would see a bottleneck because some people are slow.
You hated that.
Oh my God.
I remember you complaining about it a lot.
I cannot explain the level of hate I used to have for people like this. It was like, it literally, if I could like samurai chop their car in 3 and it cuts them to pieces and fine and they're just dead,
you know what?
I didn't mind.
You know what? For me, this is strange because I have no
problem
with traffic stuff. I'm like, I don't care.
But see, what happened is after they explained to me in Jungian analysis something called shadow projection, like that person annoys you, there's a reason for that. And I started thinking about it. One time, one person caught me and I said, oh, I'm going to use this experience. Instead of hating them, I'm going to see what about myself I hate that I'm noticing in them. And I thought about it. It took maybe 2 minutes of driving and then something clicked. I was like, I hate what I've rejected from myself is the capacity to be interested in accidents or to realize that I'm, as inconsiderate as they are. I have always seen myself as a person who's considerate, and I've rejected the quality of being inconsiderate. And so once I thought about that, I said, wait, is it true that I'm actually a considerate person? Hell no. I realized suddenly in a thing, like, hell no, I'm not the most considerate person actually. And from then on, I'm like, fine. People can rubberneck and it doesn't touch my heart even one bit anymore. And that's because I took back the projection of being inconsiderate.
You're more considerate than them.
Took that away. As if I'm always considerate, which is not the case.
Yeah.
But that small cognitive switch, it was like someone went into my brain and flipped a switch. I don't feel anything anymore from an intense hate, and that's amazing. That's not just some.
I like that you're like, that's an amazing thing that I've done.
No. I'm saying that's an amazing phenomenon
that you can do.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I wanted to ask something.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up. It kind of ties in with this, where you're saying you can actively go and like dig in and find something and actively change it yourself, like self-analyze, change, and then it has a long-term effect.
Yes, like a blockage was released or something.
Do you think you've been big into personality types and things?
Yeah, I was.
For a while.
There was. Yeah, I was. I think I'm now. I think I'm in your camp now.
What?
Where it's super murky.
Merges a bit.
It's not
blends.
just.
But you still define people as you think people have deep-rooted personality traits.
I feel people are. I mean, at the moment, I think people are born a certain way, and over time in life, from external factors and definitely internal factors, they can modify, change.
So the thing I was going to ask is,
template.
Do you think that people can do what you said that you did with that one issue across the board, but with deeply rooted personality? Do you think personalities are malleable, or do you think people are, this is the way you are, this is what you're born with, deep-rooted DNA personality?
I think you chose the perfect word. I think personality is malleable. I think you can whip it into shape. But there will be...
But the deep-rooted stuff. So this stuff that you used to take as, these are the personality types, this is what makes you a 5 or a 7.
Yeah, the Enneagram personality type, right? With the numbers 1 to 9. But I still think that at the core, if I still believe in the Enneagram or like subscribe to the hypothesis, which I'm...
on the fence about now.
I'm on the fence now only because it's very nuanced and there's no history to it and it doesn't feel like there's enough research. But I'm like, for example, there is more scientific, more rational ways of looking at things now through a Jungian lens instead of just saying you're a number.
Do they clash?
No, they haven't yet, and that's what's interesting. It's like I'm not as invested as I used to be. So because I'm always looking for a working model of the world.
So
right?
Those deeply rooted personality traits, you think you can jump from like what you were considering before, a 7 to a 2 or a 5 to a 1 or whatever?
I've never told you actually how mystical I think the whole thing is. Because I think it's like some next level thing actually, where you can use the Enneagram, which by the way is a personality typing system, where you look at certain qualities and then you assign a number to yourself. Assign, or you say, I identify with this kind of personality patterns. I think that's the best way of explaining it. So for example, I'm a number 4. That means I'm an individualist. It's important for me to stand out or to be different because it's important to me. That's like my main thing. I fear losing my individuality, for example. And all of these numbers are linked in a special way. And if the 4 is stressed, they become a number 2, and so on and so forth. And so I actually think that because you have patterns of in the Enneagram, if we go with what I used to think, still think, is that you can go from a 4 to a 1, which is the direction the 4 would go to.
This is what you used to think.
Yeah, or I kind of still do. It's like when the 4 is in a good place, they go to the 1. And the 1 is a perfectionist. They set everything out in order. And then now I really think that when you're in the 1 and you feel good, you can go into a better place. You can go to the 7, which is where it goes, which is the happy, enthusiastic thing. And then I get hyper. And then when the 7 is in a good place, they start researching the world. So it's all linked.
The thing is, I was thinking the other day, so you think deep-rooted you as a self, you can change deep-rooted what you are? Or?
No.
Okay.
I think deep-rooted who you are, there's a self that is immutable. It was there before you, and you're just tapping into it once in a while. But what can change is your behaviors or thoughts and reactions to things. You know, you can basically, your personality grows. It grows bigger than what it once was. And it's like a weird kind of, it's like gravity almost. You generate more from inside out. Whereas before it was tight and small and it's almost like you had blinders on. And suddenly by growing your personality or growing your psyche or whatever, or improving mentally, whatever that means, not intelligence only, suddenly you have like much more tools with coping with the world. And that's where I think that can change. Why should there be a limit to that?
So I just remember I had a thought before, and I thought about this for a while the other day, and I just popped into my mind now. With personalities, I don't know why I thought of this, but it kind of made sense all of a sudden. What you were describing as of like being in a good place, going to another number, let's say, or whatever.
I was worried you weren't listening.
No, I was, but I was also trying to think of how to put this into words, because obviously with everything physically, there's a give and a take, right? With anything, there's like a push and a pull.
Reaction.
Yeah, a yin and a yang with everything.
Yeah. That's a good way of looking at it.
For me, I always think of things as like optimum happiness. Everyone, in some extent, is like trying to achieve optimum happiness across the board, right? Mm-hmm. For the most part, you would think.
This is go
so
on.
This is what you would assume. But I thought about this the other day. If you try to get that, I think you're always going to fall short, because as much as you can have a happy day, I think there's an equal and opposite bad day that you have to match up with it.
You need the bad, right, to put the good into perspective. Yeah. That's just the way it is.
But some people seem like they're always happy. You know, they're always doing good. But there must be, as much as you're happy, there must be a sad to it or whatever. Yeah,
it's the compensatory.
Or is your level of where your base is different? Because there is people who are depressed who their base is a lot lower.
Maybe that's a good way of looking at it. I was trying to explain all of this to a friend a few days ago, and I said it's like an ocean, right? Which has its waves and it's turbulent. The ocean is never calm. And it feels like the depressed person is constantly drowning, and they don't have time to put their heads out to breathe. Yeah. Whereas maybe someone, like you said, seems constantly happy, is just on a boat. So their head is above water, but they can see down, and maybe when they look down, they feel sad, but then they realize they're above water.
Yeah.
So it's a bit, it looks like it's constant happiness, but no, they're in touch. They're on water still. They're not above. They've not transcended to a place that's not the ocean. They can see the sadness, and it's an ocean.
Yeah. You know? And I mean it's a good way to look at it. They're like, they're paddling water really high. They're they're not in any danger.
Yeah. But they're in touch with it. They're not removed from it. Because if you're removed from it, then If someone is removed from the ocean, for example, this oceanic other side, they're what you would call they would be what you would call inflated. They think they're literally like a balloon. They think they're up there.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one pop from for the wife or the husband to say the wrong thing, to get a demotion, to get fired,
You crash.
and they're now drowning again.
Yeah.
And that's why balance. You need to find like you said, paddle water instead of floating in this balloon that gets.
So you think rather people are at different levels as a base, or do you think we're all at, say we all start at zero and people go plummet to?
No. So the beginning part of everyone is maybe the tools that they have. So for example, to paddle, this woman, this hypothetical woman, had fins. So it did help her to paddle
But you think
higher.
that? You think it's tools and like what you start off with?
You start
what
off
you're
with
given
different
to be able
tools.
to do.
Yeah, I think
I'm
so.
not sure. I'm not sure I agree because I don't think it's. I used to think that, but now I'm not sure if you're like started off with a golden fork that it does anything. I think you appreciate things differently,
But it
and
does
really I
do
don't.
everything.
I'm not sure
Because
I
imagine
think
if you were born.
you assume that, but
the number of people born in the slums who eventually go on to be successful businessmen, let's say in just this narrow example, is completely disproportional to the number of people who are born in a rich suburb who become on to
But
successful
why does it
businessmen.
matter? Like, what is that? It's
No, but I mean,
relevant to happiness and what you think of as happy. And
That's what I'm
sad
saying.
things.
In this narrow example, you were saying that it doesn't. You feel like it doesn't matter
I
how
think-
you were born.
I think
or where
there
you
is
were born.
no for happiness. Obviously, if
For
you're-
happiness specifically.
for happiness specifically, which is like
Yeah,
overall
no.
happiness and perception of
No, the tools that you were given to deal with this metaphorical ocean, it's an even playing ground. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. You all have different tools and you can use it different ways.
yeah.
No,
But I don't
no one
think-
is given a tool that's like like I don't know, like a bubble gum for and you're like, what am I gonna do with this? I'm gonna drown.
Yeah. No, I mean, I used to think that. I used to think like, okay, you're like hypothetically, you're born with, say you're born with $1 million off the bat. You can do what you want. You're a 4-year-old that,
Trust fund baby. Done.
yeah, let's say. And you just, you can have whatever you want at any point. I think in terms of happiness, obviously in terms of what you're able to do, like, quote, successful or, have a good job or whatever, you probably have a lot
Better
more
chance.
benefits or a lot a lot better chance. But in terms of happiness, I really think it starts off
Are you
equal.
familiar with the story of the Buddha?
Mm-mm.
He was born into royalty, and they kept him sheltered. This is like the legend, the myth might be the true. I don't really know. He's kept him sheltered, and he is living this like awesome life. But he's saying must be something more to life. And he sees over the castle walls, and he sees people suffering. And he's like, oh my God, what is this thing that I've been sheltered from? So he leaves and puts himself in the complete opposite of the world. He's saying, if I have everything and I didn't feel alive or I didn't feel fulfilled, I was suffering in a weird way. And now I go to actual suffering, and I suffer like everyone else is suffering, poor, begging for food. And I still didn't feel like there was anything there. He just came, he was like, there needs to be a middle ground, and the only thing common to both is that it's suffering. So, happiness, I don't know. When you think of it, when you look at it that way, it becomes like
The other
it
thing
becomes
is,
like it's almost like a lollipop to say the word happiness.
yeah. But the funny thing is, I mean, another way to look at it is if you start off with everything, you have I think your appreciation for things is diluted very, very fast, and you have a lot bigger journey to fall. If you start off with,
this is a
if you
very, very, very good observation.
if you start off with less,
Only
you
ways
say
up.
financially, like buying things, because that's really what we're talking about in terms of like starting off better or whatever,
Yes.
starting off with an upper hand or whatever.
Economically,
If you start off with less, each thing that you gain along the way feels like a small win. So it
Yes.
feels like you have steps, and eventually when you get something, say you get whatever you're working towards, once you get it for the most part, I think
That becomes the new standard.
That's the new standard, and then you have another step. Those steps maybe are you have more of those steps and more of those wins along the way, where the other people don't. They have one big win, birth, and then They don't have anything else. But eventually, I think once you get to the top step, like I have everything, I have more money than I can spend. The having nothing compared to that is no different. If you can eat and you can drink and sustain yourself, you realize that those stairs are much closer than you think. You know, there's not people. Then you talk about like the Buddhist side of it, going, you give all your possessions away and you have bare minimum. I think,
and he said that doesn't work for him either.
That doesn't work for him either.
Yeah, he's.
But I mean, I think that staircase that looks huge, those stairs that you have of like this small wins, eventually the top you're have $100 billion, everything you can ever want. That to having nothing, I think, is not as far as we think.
I think in your example, both of these people, the guy who was born with everything, or the baby who was born with everything, and the one who has to work to get to the top, both of them, I guess ironically, have different kinds of struggles. The one who's born with everything has to start developing their identity. They have to start realizing they might have had all of the material and physical goods in life sorted, but then they have their hard work of realizing who they are.
Yeah.
And that feels like starting from the bottom, because now everything's here. And supposedly the only way is up.
We're only assuming this.
Yeah, we're assuming it's hypothetical. But like whereas with the one who has nothing, they have to start earning a living and everything. And for them, as they, like you said, reach a new benchmark in living, they discover who they are as they're doing this consequent together. But what happens is, if they're not careful, every time they have a win, they think, I did this.
Yeah.
Only me. I started with nothing and I did this. And they don't realize how much behind the world was with them. Whereas the other person knows how much of the world was with them. And that's like the poison, that's the dagger that's at their neck their whole lives.
Yeah.
Whereas the other person becomes ego inflated.
Yeah, I did this myself.
I did this myself. And they reach a point when they're just going to be X.
This is the, like, it's a weird way to think of it, but like the modern rapper mentality of like, look what I've done, like, look how quick I've got here, new money. But at the end of the day, like, it makes no difference.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to stay humble.
I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end on. All right. See you next time.